So the Democrats are basically saying that they are maybe going to fight Neil Gorsuch, despite the fact that, President Obama was historically screwed over when he wasn't able to appoint his pick, Merrick Garland, for the Supreme Court. The Democrats should be fighting back because the Republicans just were insanely obstructionist and undemocratic in what they did during the last year of Obama's term after the death of Antonin Scalia. Right now, Trump's pick, Neil Gorsuch, has full support from Republicans. He's very telegenic, which we know Trump cares a lot about, and he's extremely conservative. Some legal experts have said more conservative than Antonin Scalia. Look, I'm not personally in favor of politicizing the nomination process of a judge, but look, the Republicans started this last year, and if the Democrats don't respond, it's pretty weak and feckless. They can filibuster it. They need for Supreme Court nominees, you need 60 votes, but it looks like a lot of Democrats are not going to. Senator Jon Tester of Montana is one of the very weak and basically bought off Democrats that are just going to allow it to happen. He said that Senator Schumer is giving centrists like him room to decide how to vote, mindful that 10 members of the conference face re-election in states Trump won in November. It's just like idiotic strategy by the Democrats. It's not, they don't care if you vote for a Supreme Court pick. They care if you're going to bring their jobs back. That's like not on the top of the list of priorities for the people of Montana, which Tester is representing. Schumer hasn't said anything to me. I have not visited with Chuck, Tester said. There's no whipping going on whatsoever. I find that hard to believe, probably because he knows it probably won't do any good. Whose side are you on? And then they're unbelievably weak. They're getting stomped all over by Republicans, and some of the other Democrats that may be able to be flipped are Heidi Heitkamp, the notorious pro-Dapple Democrat from North Dakota, Claire McCaskill, who's just terrible all around, and Mark Warner of Virginia, who again these guys are pretty much Republicans in Democrats' clothing. Despite growing confidence among Democrats they can block Gorsuch, a senior GOP aide counted 16 Democrats as undecided. By the way, they're incentivized to inflate that number, but I'm just giving you some of the facts on the ground here, giving Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell hope of reaching the 60-vote threshold. If there are actually 16 Democrats that are on the fence, I kind of just want to walk off the set and go kick something.
Well, a few things. One, I reported a few weeks ago, Jon Tester, you don't see these fundraising reports anywhere else because the media is kind of in bed with the same powerful folk fundraising and co-hosting. Jon Tester just held a fundraiser with a major Republican donor who had all sorts of FEC violations years ago for not reporting foreign donations and all these things, and he just hosted a fundraiser with this woman in Washington, D.C. That's not unique to Jon Tester. They all do shady stuff like this all the time, and then go out and say, we're the party of the working people. But even outside of just the whole obvious, I don't think they should play ball, since the Republicans did this unprecedented filibuster of even having a hearing for Merrick Garland. But Neil Gorsuch is extremely radical. I'd say he's even more conservative than John Roberts, possibly even Scalia, if that's even possible. You could just go through the list of between never, ever siding against big money, very extreme on female reproductive rights, won't really give a straight answer on Roe v. Wade. So even if you're not going to unilaterally filibuster, this is part of why the Democratic Party is in the position it's in, because granted, it's not new to politics that people are afraid for their election the next year and don't want to take tough votes. But the fact of the matter is, people like Heidi Heitkamp, who I have my own thoughts on, having covered the Dakota Access Pipeline as much as I did, Jon Tester, Joe Manchin, they don't really see the exploding progressive movement right in front of them. They're like, well, I represent West Virginia and these other places that they don't necessarily cater to the Bernie message. Yeah, they do. I don't know if you saw those town halls Bernie Sanders did in West Virginia.
Who's more popular in West Virginia, Joe Manchin or Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders is the most popular politician throughout the country. Perhaps co-opting some of his message would do them a little bit of good. Bobby Moore says y'all should cover how the mayor of Baltimore, Catherine Pugh, had an opportunity to pass a $15 minimum wage but vetoed it. Good, thank you for that, and we'll take note of it. But just to continue on the, someone like Joe Manchin, they don't understand that this isn't politics as usual. This isn't like, oh, if I look too radical, then the Republicans aren't going to vote for me. It's populism either way. It's either going to be populism on the right or populism on the left. That's how people in West Virginia are going to respond, because often people just want to vote based on inspiration and based on if you're going to bring their jobs back. That's really number 1 and 2 for how people vote in this country, especially in this current political climate. They don't really care about Neil Gorsuch and like if you're the one that's standing in the way. But what they also respond to is strength. So saying, what can I do? They're twisting my arm. I guess I'll vote for Neil Gorsuch. That's not something that people are going to respond to. They respond to strong leaders, not just, I'm going to go with the Republicans this time, despite the fact that they basically gave us 2 middle fingers for the entire year during the Merrick Garland non-confirmation. It's weak. It's like icky. It's so babyish.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, and bring on more questions, comments if you have them. Like Joe Manchin, these folks, it's not like a one-off thing. They're constantly voting. I don't like crediting Chuck Schumer, but at least he voted against Rex Tillerson. And like some of these corporate Democrats actually are having a spine to vote against the more extreme things. I mean, think about that. Democrats voted for the CEO of ExxonMobil to be Secretary of State. I mean, it's just laughable on its face. So, and Heidi Heitkamp, while people in her state, a lot of people not from North Dakota, but a lot of North Dakotans were getting shot with bullets in the face, tear gas, pepper spray. I mean, you know the story in North Dakota. She said nothing. She basically said, oh, well, there needs to be a resolution. So I wouldn't even call these Democrats, they're just typical politicians who are more worried about self-perseverance. And the only way, I think Bernie Sanders said it right, you get change is from the bottom up. And I think if you're not going to get these people out of office, you at least need to challenge them. Because the reason they do these things is because they feel their reelection is a guarantee. So whether it's local progressives, even, even Republican candidates in those states, they need to be challenged because they're not fighting for the people they represent. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's just such BS that the Democratic leaders often go, but you can't, we just want them to get reelected. What does it matter if they get reelected if they're this weak and pathetic? What does it matter?